We all love an underdog story, don't we?
Premier League champions 2016, the amazing Leicester City!
And today I'm going to talk about one of the main surprise qualifiers into the Champions League of the season. The team which is writing a remarkable story with its consistent overperformance in Europe year after year, with a minuscule budget but with a lot of heart and professionalism. Welcome to my video about Qarabag Football Club. First, very briefly about the history of the team. Qarabag Football Club was founded in 1951 in the town of Aghdam of Soviet Azerbaijan. It had a rather unremarkable stint in the Soviet period, never making it to the first division of the USSR. At the time, Qarabag's high point was winning the championship title of the Azerbaijan Soviet Republic League and reaching the second division of the USSR in 1988. That year was a pivotal moment in the history of Azerbaijan. The people in Azerbaijan rose in demand for independence from the Soviet Union, and 3 years later the country won its freedom. But this was also the moment when the war between the newly independent Azerbaijan and Armenia broke out. In 1993, Armenians occupied Aghdam, the home of Qarabag FC, and the club became the refugee team of Azerbaijan. This tragic year for the team and the country as a whole was ironically also the year that Qarabag won its first league title of Azerbaijan. In the following years, Qarabag struggled financially and on the pitch without much success. But everything changed when this man became the head coach of Qarabag in 2008. Qurban Qurbanov, a former striker and still the highest goal scorer in the history of Azerbaijan's national team. But he is now known more as a coach than as a player, and for a good reason. Qarabag's fortunes started turning around soon after Qurbanov became a coach. The team started climbing the league table and regularly participating in the European tournaments. Most importantly, they started consistently winning qualification rounds in Europe, which was really something the Azerbaijani football teams had never seen. Finally, in 2014, after 21 years, Qarabag became the champions of Azerbaijan. This set the stage for more than a decade of dominance on the domestic stage. Qarabag has become a Bayern Munich-like force in Azerbaijani football, winning 11 out of 12 league titles since 2013. This near-perfect domestic form has been accompanied by an astonishing consistency on the European stage too. Qarabag has made it to the group stage of European tournaments every season since 2014. In this decade, Qarabag has performed really well for a very small budget team, even reaching the knockout stages of the European tournaments 3 times. This includes victories over notable European clubs like Anderlecht, Olympiacos, Young Boys, Copenhagen, including the victory over the finalists of the Europa League of that season, Dnipro. But there were 2 high points in Europe in Qarabag's recent history. In 2018, they reached what seemed like an unattainable goal. The Holy Grail, the Champions League. They were drawn in an extremely tough group with Chelsea, Roma and Atletico Madrid. But Qarabag managed to draw twice with the semi-finalists of the previous season, Atletico, preventing the Spanish giants from reaching the knockout stage, again with a fraction of their budget. Perhaps even a bigger accomplishment was achieved in the 2023-24 season when the Azerbaijani champions made it to the knockout stage of the Europa League and won a round in a dramatic fashion against the Portuguese team Braga. Up next was Bayer Leverkusen. Yeah, that invincible Bayer Leverkusen of Xabi Alonso. Nobody gave Qarabag a chance, but they managed to push Leverkusen to the brink in both games. Qarabag incredibly led 2-0 in both legs, but each time the German champions came back. In the second leg, they needed 2 stoppage time goals to defeat Qarabag 5-4 on aggregate. It was a heartbreaking end to a fantastic European campaign for Qarabag, but they could hold their heads high. All this unprecedented success was managed with a minuscule budget. According to Transfermarkt, the total market value of Qarabag's squad is only 25 million euros. The team has spent less than 7.5 million euros on transfers since 2020. I mean, this team should have no business competing in the same tournament with Real Madrid, PSG, Man City, Barcelona and others. But this consistent overperformance has been possible because of Qurban Qurbanov. Just to understand why Qurbanov is so important to Qarabag. This is not your ordinary coach responsible only for what happens on the pitch. Qurbanov is a Sir Alex Ferguson-like figure for Qarabag. He is in charge of everything, starting with the training process to scouting and recruitment in the team. He makes the team better than the sum of its parts. He finds forgotten and unknown players with potential from everywhere in the world and turns them into footballers ready to perform at the European stage. Qurbanov is a father-like figure loved and respected by his players. He is a great man manager, but not just that. Qurbanov is also a great tactician, and Qarabag plays modern possession-based football under his guidance. However, he is a smart and pragmatic man, understanding the limitations of his squad. Qurbanov would not shy away from sitting in a solid low block against stronger European opponents, trying to punish them with lightning-fast counterattacks. By the way, as a side note, I am confident that Qurban Qurbanov would not be out of his depth in stronger European leagues, and I hope that one day he'll try his luck in one of them. Obviously, given how tough their opponents are going to be in the Champions League, we can expect Qarabag to play defensive and counter-attacking football. In terms of formation, Qurbanov usually plays 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1. This is how Qarabag will most likely line up in the Champions League. It would be understandable if you have never seen any of these players before and don't know anything about them, but there are actually several very good players who are worth looking at in the Champions League. One of them is left winger Abdullah Zubir. This French player is now the captain of Qarabag. Zubir is a very good dribbler, has good technique and is very comfortable in tight spaces. He can make a decent pass and win a foul for you. He may be a bit slow and does not really have a powerful shot, but Zubir has been decisive on many European nights for Qarabag through the years. Brazilian playmaker Cadi Borges is another key player for Qarabag. He is a good dribbler, can make a very good cross and give a perfectly weighted through ball. Cadi is not a fast player, but he has that initial burst which allows him to get a separation from defenders. Once he gets that, his decent shooting and finishing ability allows him to score goals. Cadi's profile rose high enough for the Russian Premier League team Krasnodar to buy him for a reported 2 million euros, but injuries derailed his career in Russia and now he's back playing for Qurban Qurbanov. Finally, I want to talk about Marko Jankovic, who I believe is the best overall player of Qarabag. The Montenegrin international, who at one point even played in Serie A, is a controller of Qarabag's possession game. He's press resistant, he solves build-up problems by evading opposition through body feints and carrying the ball into space. Jankovic also sets the pace and direction of Qarabag's attacks with his neat passing. He can shoot the ball from distance and is a decent set-piece taker. Make sure to follow Marko Jankovic when you watch Qarabag in the Champions League this season. Qarabag predictably has a very tough schedule in the Champions League. They play with favorites like Liverpool and Chelsea and other seasoned Champions League sides like Benfica, Napoli and Ajax. Realistically speaking, not much is expected of Qarabag in the Champions League, given the disparity in the squad levels and team budgets. Winning a game for the first time in their Champions League history, upsetting a couple of teams would already be a massive result. Still, I'm confident that Qarabag is going to put up a very good fight against every single opponent. Qurban Qurbanov is a great tactician. He will study every opponent diligently and find weaknesses in their game. And if the opposing teams are complacent against Qarabag, he will find a way to punish, whatever happens in the end. Qarabag Football Club is already a great example of consistency and success for European clubs with a very small budget. Here is to hoping that Qarabag and Qurban Qurbanov can make history once again against the odds. See you on the next one.